It's good to be back up here with you. Ken, again, great job. Panelists have been great. Really good information that we've heard. And I like this. I was talking to my team earlier. I like this conference, if you want to call it that, because it's a little more intimate. We're coming together. It's mostly folks from the Northeast, and it's a diverse group of folks, right? A lot of the people that are here today are really the ones that are getting stuff done, right? So just by show of hands, how many of you have a role, and again, non-vendor, how many of you have a role that's related to, say, innovation? All right. And then how about procurement? How about construction? Legal? What about fun stuff like HR and business development, anything like that? A little bit of that? Okay. All right. So, really good group represented across here. So what we'll try to do today is not make this a commercial, but we'll try to give you some key learnings that you can take away, some things that we've found through the years, the 25 years, as I mentioned, of working on some really complex critical infrastructure projects. Because, I think for me, as I've been involved in all things connected the last 15 or 20 years, whether it's IoT or sustainability or ADA related stuff, smart cities, transportation, it's evolving, right? And I think, connectivity now is ubiquitous. And as we were saying earlier, everything's connected. Every experience is digital, and it's just going to continue to evolve. So we'll continue to evolve with it, and we'll walk you through some things that we've learned today. So, we're doing a lot in the Northeast, as we mentioned. So these are some of the projects that we've worked on and some of the places that we're connecting and helping our partners to really drive outcomes. It's been 25 years, and it's not just here in the Northeast, but it's around the world. We have 120 plus airports and transportation hubs that we connect. If you just stay on the topic of transportation, aviation, transit, and working very closely with the Port Authority here and with Rick and his team. We design, build, and manage networks. That's what we do at our core. But we also have a very large software development team as well. So as we talk about some of the things that are use case driven or outcome driven, that ride on top of the networks, our teams internally at Boingo are very involved with our partners through some of these public-private partnerships or supplier vendor relationships to develop out use cases that drive outcomes on top of the network. So very engaged in that aspect as well, and that's one of our differentiators, I think, in the industry. You can also find us at major terminals, right? The stations. So whether it's Port Authority Bus Terminal, Jamaica Station, World Trade Center, Oculus, we're the engineers behind a lot of the urban connectivity that you're seeing, whether it's commute or urban or the light rail lines, and again, working with the MTA, the PATH, and Long Island Railroad as well. We're connected not only stations, but we're also connecting yards and support facilities. And I think, we talked a little bit about that on our panel. That's really important to remember that, that's a lot of the lifeblood that's allowing transit to happen, right? And people don't see that behind the scenes that are actually the riders, but that's a really important part, and you need connectivity there as much as you do within the terminal or on the train. And, I think we've talked, a lot today about challenges. There's no shortage of challenges that come with working in this industry. You probably see it every day. It's nothing new. There's things that you have to deal with. When we think about challenges, it's clear to us that transportation hubs really act as their own cities. They're hubs of commerce, like we talked about earlier, retail, safety, information. There's a tremendous amount of data that's going through these hubs. And so they're much more complex, and the challenges become much more complex as you start to work in some of these massive facilities that have hundreds of thousands of people moving through them on a daily basis. But it really is an amazing, amazing project, and it was extremely complex. It's a remarkable facility. When you peel back the curtain on this, really, the technology infrastructure is a work of art, right? And Grand Central Madison boasts now 3 million miles of square foot of networking, 10 miles of tunnel connectivity. It was really designed for current and future use cases that you see up there, whether it's voice calling, text streaming, predictive maintenance, mobile ticketing, security cameras, and then, it's future-proof as well. So we'll continue to upgrade the networks there as we move to the next G, as we move to Wi-Fi 7, which we'll talk a little bit about in a minute. But, right now, that is just truly a remarkable project. And it was great to work in partnership with the MTA and our construction and design partners there as well. So let's dig into infrastructure modernization. So Rick talked a little bit about it this morning when it came to the bus terminal and in the amount of money, right? But the complexity to really design and develop this critical connectivity infrastructure, as I said, is challenging. And transit agencies that I talk to are challenged with modernization and taking projects on without disrupting day-to-day service. So how many of you are involved with laying out what that day-to-day journey looks like for a passenger? I know Lisa's obviously involved in that in the group there. Yeah. So look, so when I address their challenges, I talk about what we're doing at Penn Station because, again, you have to work around active train schedules and make sure that in Penn Station's use case, it's one of the busiest transit hubs in the Western Hemisphere, as you all know. It's a civic asset. It's home to the LIRR and many other transit lines, and they're modernizing with a new 250,000 square foot single level facility that's going to double passenger circulation space. So it's a really impressive project. There's a lot of use cases that are going to be deployed on top of the network, similar to what we did at Grand Central Madison. We're deploying cellular and Wi-Fi coverage there, and this connectivity really will be critical for these future use cases and the future of Penn as it becomes a state-of-the-art 21st century transportation hub as you look at what's going to start to occur there or continue to occur there and then scale. I think Chase made a good point earlier when you're talking about innovation. You might start small with something in a pilot form. With connectivity, you really can't do that, right? When we build a network out, we're building it out for the entire facility, and then you may start small with the use cases that you put on top of it that are driving outcomes, and then scale those out. But with a network, as you build the network, you're really going all in at the beginning to make sure that network is built. That's the way you're going to get the efficiencies and the way that you're going to get things done on time and on budget, frankly, right? So when carrying out this project with zero disruption to the daily train operations at Penn, we're supporting the MTA's future vision while supporting their commitment to not impacting the travelers day to day. And I think on a project like this, you need to have partners like we have in the room here, right? We're a digital infrastructure partner who can do it all. I was talking to a software provider out there earlier, and they're focused on construction management type of software, fully integrated suite of solutions that you can use. So it's a one-stop shop. When you have a one-stop shop as a partner, I think you have one throat to choke, which is good or bad. You have one group of people that you're working with on a regular basis, and you have a go-to that you can work with all the way through the design and the planning phase, the design phase, that strategic process that we talked about on different panels, and then through execution, and then after the fact. So we take a lot of pride in obviously understanding what you're dealing with every day and what the requirements are of the project, not just the technical requirements or the construction requirements, but working with union labor, making sure that we're providing equitable opportunities to women-owned business, minority-owned business, and in service and disabled veteran-owned businesses as well. We have a stable of partners. One thing I always like to throw out when I'm at these, if there's partners that we're not working with today, we'd like to know who you are, and we'd like to get to know you and potentially work with you on projects in the future. So if we have any of those folks out there that feel like they could add to one of the projects that we're doing, please see the team afterwards. We try to help the agencies we're working with think beyond the stations as well, right? So critical infrastructure is no longer just for the stations. You need the connectivity that stretches the entire commuter journey. I was just talking to somebody about his ride in on the Metro North, and he didn't have any connectivity. Now that's not us, but at the end of the day, you expect that, right? I mean, so you got two choices. Now you can read a book, you can do some work on your laptop, or you can sleep, but you're not connected, and people feel that. They feel the pain of that, So, if you're challenged with bringing tech infrastructure to the tracks, and through the tunnels, take a look at what we've done with the MTA and LIRR's Atlantic branch. It's an older project, but at the end of the day, you have 200-plus-year-old stations, in Atlantic Terminal in Brooklyn and Jamaica Station in Queens. You have 18 miles of train tunnels between them, and we worked with the MTA to provide connectivity through all of that. So very complex. The network designs begin with site surveys, all kinds of boring stuff that's really, really important and that takes a lot of time to make sure that you really understand what the project is going to entail. The assessments to understand the structural constraints, things like the train envelope. I was talking to a coworker last night, and some of the things that you need to really take into consideration, like the train envelope, and then the availability of power and abatement requirements, all those things that are not sexy and fun, like some of the apps we talked about and the use cases we talk about around AI, but that are really, really important to make sure that you're placing antennas strategically so you have that coverage, and so that you're also at the same time minimizing the visual impact of all of that and ensuring compliance with, in this case, historical preservation guidelines. So a lot of nuances to what we do and the way we partner that allow these projects to be incredibly successful. And, if you just think about the build phase and the coordination that's required to do a project like this, a lot goes into it. Overnight, off-peak hour installations with the tunnels, with the stations, prioritizing safety. So all the things that we're doing there, leveraging our experience to make sure that, that you have the safest environment, the most efficient environment to go out and to build a world-class network in. And we're also well-versed with, navigating what is the regulatory requirements and what that takes there. So, we have carrier relationships that you have to bring to bear. And again, this is just a video that's running in the background, no volume, but just the voiceover is, when you look at the relationships that we have to have also with AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, it's a level of complexity that you guys don't need to deal with on a daily basis. We take care of that for you in many, many ways. So a couple more slides. And, I think to sum it up, as we kind of work through the end of this here, when done right, what we're doing, deploying digital infrastructure, as we call it, it enhances the customer experience. There's no doubt about it. It boosts safety and security, empowers operations. And the question that we get asked most frequently, frankly, is where do we begin? So now we get to some of the key learnings. And, I think when we talk about the public-private partnerships, I asked the question on the panel about how long you were engaged in those discussions. Because they started very early on in the process. You don't just jump into the middle of things and start to have very complex discussions like that. So I think one of the key things is bring your partners in early, right? Whatever the technology provider is, the design, the construction company, bring them in as early as you can, get them involved in the vision and the strategy, and then work through the process there. The earlier, the better. Rick and the discussion that they had there talked about Newark Terminal A, right? And we're providing connectivity at JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark, all those key Port Authority transportation hubs. And Newark Terminal A, that modernization project was just named a 5-star terminal from Skytrax. And that's a pretty prestigious destination. Very few have it in the U.S. Or designation. And I think, we worked with them from the start, really making sure that we understood how they're going to bring all digital use cases, not just to the terminal, but to the apron and to the tarmac, right? And it's interesting when you work through that, because if you're starting with the use cases, which is really, strategic step number 2, you start with the use cases and you think about Newark that was designed, 50 years ago originally. And today with this new terminal, they're going to expect 14 million passengers through there. Total game changer. And there's no way you could have future-proofed things 50 years ago like we can today. And when we're planning infrastructure, we're really trying to think of every possible landslide, whether it's in the terminal or an airside use case. So a couple more slides here. And, my next piece of advice, I guess, would be just, again, consider one provider. For us, it's a one converged network provider. For other applications that you're trying to develop internally or to drive value with in your organizations, it may be that, software application we talked about, that suite of software. It just makes things a lot easier. When you're talking about Newark New Terminal A, we deployed 5G DAS, so that's what your phone is running on basically for the public. That's AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon all in there. Wi-Fi 6, which will eventually get upgraded to Wi-Fi 7. Private network utilizing CBRS. And then the use cases that are running on those networks are, everything from digital signage to baggage scanners to airport concessions, passenger mobility, as I mentioned, and staff iPads. And then the private network we actually deployed, and that was really for the apron and for the airside stuff. So I mentioned Wi-Fi 7, and I just want to point out that we're not only doing work here in the Northeast in major transit hubs and airports, but in Las Vegas, at the Las Vegas monorail station, we have our innovation center there. We deployed Wi-Fi 7 there. So that was one of the first deployments of Wi-Fi 7 in the United States, and probably the first that was deployed in an actual transit area. So we've got Wi-Fi 7 up and running. Wi-Fi 7 is important for you all to know about because that's the next evolution of Wi-Fi, and you'll have some cellular capabilities in there as well that will allow you to basically double the network bandwidth, which means you're going to have increased reliability, quadruple the speed of Wi-Fi 6. So again, speeds are really important, throughput's really important. Enhance energy efficiency, talk about sustainability. It's going to lower overall power usage, the way that the APs are designed. And then you have security protocols. I had a good conversation this morning with some folks about security. I think what they mentioned was last year we didn't talk much about security. I didn't hear anybody talk too much about security today, but I think it's important to mention that that Wi-Fi 7 will have increased security. And in our work, what we're doing is really leveraging AI and our prowess with the federal government. We have over 100 Department of Defense locations worldwide. So some of the experience that we get working with the DoD allows us to take the security learnings and roll them out to the public sector as we're dealing with transportation hubs and transit hubs, right? And working with the agencies here in this room. I do want to point out that the CrowdStrike outage, we did not have one network that went down due to the way that we deploy our security protocols and the way we manage our networks. So not one of our networks went down when at airports around the world, as you saw, you were having tons of issues. So what we're doing works. And I think that from an AI perspective, we'll continue to integrate that into our networks and help to improve the health of the networks and the support that we provide you all through leveraging AI. And we'll certainly be ready for the next G, which is going to be 6G. Everybody's sick of hearing about 5G, so let's start talking about 6G. It's coming. It might be 5 to 7 years, but you're going to start hearing about it more. Again, Wi-Fi 7, and then what's next after that. So we'll continue to stay on the forefront for you. We'll continue to keep innovating on your behalf. We'll continue to keep being a company of first, and we'll continue to keep being a good partner to those of you that we're working with here in the room and to the other suppliers and vendors that are out there. So thank you for your time. Appreciate all the time that I had this morning. Ken, great job today. And I'll talk to you all in a little bit.